Hey y'all, welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Stephanie. I just want to thank each and every one of y'all who took the time to watch my videos, like, subscribe, and comment. You guys really mean the world to me, and I just couldn't do this without each and every one of y'all. Today, I want to show you how I made this Home of the Brave rustic wall decor piece. To make the frame of this wall piece, I will be using one of the 18-inch wreath forms from Dollar Tree and some heavy-duty wire cutters. I began by removing the inside ring from the wreath form, but instead of removing it how I normally do, I'm going to be cutting the bars that run horizontally in each section. I make sure to leave the vertical pieces intact for now so that when I start to lay my words into place and glue them down, I will have proper spacing between the two remaining rings. To make the letters for the wall piece, I'll be using 2 of the cookie sheets from Dollar Tree and some letters that I cut out of cardstock with my Cricut. I cut these at 2.5 inches tall and wide, but if you don't have a Cricut, you can use these poster letters from Dollar Tree. They fit perfectly between the rings of the wreath forms. To cut the letters, I will be using a sharp box cutter, an old pair of scissors, and some detailed scissors. I got the small scissors at Dollar Tree. And I'll be using a black marker to trace the letters onto the cookie sheet. To make it easier to trace these letters, I'm going to use my box cutter and cut out the inside part of the cookie sheet. Please be careful when you're doing this because this cookie sheet can be sharp. Now that the rim has been removed, I simply lay the letters onto the sheet and trace them out with the black marker. I try to get as close to the cardstock as I can, but if they're not perfect, that's totally fine with me too because I'm going for a rustic look. I ended up using one whole sheet and just a tiny bit of the second sheet, but don't throw the rest away because we'll use that in an upcoming project. To cut out the letters, I use a combination of the big and small scissors. I take my time cutting them out and being very careful not to cut myself on the cookie sheet. So if you do decide to make this piece, be mindful that the aluminum can be sharp and protect your fingers. Here I want to show you how I cut out the inside parts of the letters that needed to be removed. I used the box cutter to make the straight lines, then using the small scissors, I slowly and carefully cut out the rest of the shape. I did end up bending some of the letters just a bit so that I could get a better angle to cut at, but these are so easy to bend that as long as you're super careful, you're not going to break them and they'll bend right back into the shape that you're wanting them to be in. Once all 14 letters were cut out, I took some JB Weld Super Weld, which is like a super glue, and attached the cardstock letters to the aluminum letters. I didn't want to just throw away the cardstock letters, and they do make the aluminum letters more sturdy. I just applied a generous amount of JB Weld to the letters and pressed them together. This Super Weld has a pretty quick hold, so it didn't take long for them to dry. Next, I'm going to lay out the words around the wreath form how I want them, and then mark each of the vertical pieces that I left earlier that needed to be removed. I did this so that my letters would lay exactly how I wanted them. Then I took the wire cutters and cut them out. You'll see how I keep laying the form back down to where I drew the arrows. That way I keep everything lined up where it needs to be. I do end up removing all but 2 of the vertical pieces. Now I'm going to line my marks back up where I just removed the pieces of the wreath form and lay the letters back in place so that I can begin gluing them down. Once I'm happy with the placement of the words, I use some of the JB Weld Super Weld and hot glue to attach them to the wreath form. I start by gluing the letters to the inside ring using the JB Weld in the center at the top of the letter and just a dab of the hot glue at each end, being very careful not to mix the two. If they do end up mixing, you'll end up with a sticky mess and nothing's going to be glued down but your fingers. I found this out the hard way, so I'm passing it along to you. Now that all the letters are glued to the inside ring, I use the same combination of the glues to attach the bottom of the letters to the outside ring. Some of the letters will hang off the edge just a little bit, but that's okay. I'll be adding some rope and you can't really tell where the letters were a little bit too long. Unfortunately, I lost some of the footage, but once I have all the letters glued down, I go back and remove those last 2 vertical pieces that I had left on the wreath form. Next, I'm going to take some of the Dollar Tree nautical rope and flip the wreath form over and hot glue the rope around the outside ring, making sure that it is behind the letters that are hanging over the edge just a little bit. This 1 pack of 13-foot rope was more than enough to wrap both the inside and outside rings. Once I had the outside ring completely done, I go back in and do the same thing on the inside ring, making sure to cover the letters that are sticking over the edge. I'm going to be using this 16-inch star that I found at Hobby Lobby for the center of this piece. I took the star and placed it under the wreath form and centered it. I didn't measure or anything, I just eyeballed it, but you could definitely measure if you wanted to make sure it was perfectly centered. I did know that I wanted the top point of the star to be right in the middle of the word of. So once I had it laid out how I wanted it, I took some hot glue and glued it into place. The hot glue seemed to work fine. I used Gorilla Hot Glue, but I did go back here in just a second. You're going to see it where I used the JB Weld Super Weld to add a little bit of reinforcement to each of the points of the star. Now I'm going to take it all outside and give it a couple of coats of flat burnished amber from Rust-Oleum. I did end up giving the front of it 2 coats and the back 1. Once the burnished amber was completely dry on the front and the back, I took it back outside and gave it a few coats of the matte clear acrylic sealer from Mod Podge. I think I probably did 3 coats on the front and 1 on the back. To finish up this project, I'll be using one of these American flag bows from Hobby Lobby. I start by taking the bow apart. It's super easy. It's all stapled together and just twist tied together, so it's easy to take apart. I'm just going to be using one of the blue strips and then the white and red strip. First, I'm going to take the blue and white ribbon, and starting up there on the star right at the letter E on the word home, I'm going to wrap it around the star kind of like a sash, and I'm going to flip it over and hot glue it in place on the back of the star with some hot glue. Now that the blue ribbon's in place, I'm going to take the red and white ribbon, and starting right there on the corner of the star where the blue ribbon meets the red ribbon, I'm going to kind of tuck the red ribbon up underneath the blue ribbon and hot glue it into place there. Then I'm going to take the rest of the red and white ribbon and kind of wrap it around the point of the star that goes right behind the E on the word brave and secure it into place with hot glue on the back. And that's it, y'all. I absolutely love how this piece came out. I actually seen a piece online at Kirkland's that was a metal Home of the Brave wall decor piece, and I fell in love with it. But I definitely didn't fall in love with the $79 price tag. I ended up making this one for about $16, and it's not the same, but I absolutely love it anyway. I would love to know what you think about this project, so leave me a comment down below and let me know. And if you like it, give me a thumbs up because it really helps out my channel. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Click that button and stick around. I got a bunch of fun projects on the way. I'll see y'all next time.